women are going to benefit. The objective of this webinar today, really, the motivation behind this conversation is really what we are hoping is really the objective of the award leadership program for emerging women in science. And the award leadership program for emerging women in science seeks to improve the numbers, the experiences of young women, particularly women under 35 years of age who are entering the science careers, to support them, provide them with the skills, with the networks, with the abilities to not just stay on that path, but to improve their chances of succeeding in their science careers, to equip them to be able to go on in that path as leaders, as as PIs, as effective, as efficient, and as confident, capable leaders. A couple of weeks back, maybe 3 weeks ago, the World Bank released a policy working paper that was looking at women's leadership, and the issue around women's leadership and the gender gap is an issue that has been discussed hugely. There's been a lot of conversations, and there's been a growing momentum around paying attention to the issue of women's leadership, not just in science, but women's leadership more broadly, in entrepreneurship, in politics, in science, in governance. And the World Bank report I was pleased to see that policy brief, because it's taking the conversation, a step further beyond talking about, the gap and the persisting gap. That policy paper is exploring what works, what doesn't, and what's missing. When I was reading that paper, I saw that they had categorized 3 barriers for women's leadership, and they had categorized these barriers as: one, opportunity, motivations, and capabilities. And I was very pleased to see that, because it's very much aligned to what we are trying to do at Award, or what we are doing at Award. We are providing opportunities for young women to navigate the science career spaces, to identify how they might grow. We're providing motivation for them in different ways, and we're enhancing their capabilities. So this particular webinar is going to help us illuminate what are some of the opportunities for enhancing visibility, what could motivate you to get into that space, and what do you require? Yeah. So that is the overview of the webinar today. In terms of the program, we have our keynote presenter, who's going to share with us her experiences, to share with us her learnings, to share with us tips that we can use, opportunities we can leverage to enhance our visibility. I'm going to introduce her shortly, and then we'll have an opportunity to ask questions, but the chat function is already open. I invite you to make use of the chat function. Feel free to ask us any question. And yes, we'll be looking forward to answering those questions. But also, it's an opportunity to get to know who else is here, and we encourage you to also respond to somebody. If you see somebody asking a question that something that you have encountered in the past, or you've navigated, feel free to share your opinions as well. We also have a Menti question, which we are going to ask you now, to indulge us and tell us about what are some of the challenges that you faced, or that you think persist, or perpetuate the challenges that you face around building your visibility. I'd like to announce that the webinar is live. We are streaming live on YouTube, so feel free to share the link with your colleagues, with your friends, and invite as many people as you can to also follow the conversation. We are recording it, and we'll be happy to share with you the recording at the end of it all. So I think, without further ado, before I invite my speaker, I'd like to request my colleague Jennifer to share the Menti question. And we'd like to hear your views as well. So Jennifer, if you could share your screen, put the link in the chat first for us to respond to the question on Mentimeter. So as the question is being projected, I'd like to introduce our speaker today. And our speaker is Dr. Pamela Ochungo, who is a lecturer at the School of Surveying and Special Sciences at the Technical University of Kenya. She's also a researcher with the MESAM project at Cambridge University in the UK. Dr. Ochungo holds a PhD in conservation ecology from Stellenbosch University in South Africa, a Master of Science in Geoinformation Science from Manchester Metropolitan University in the UK, and a Bachelor of Science in Surveying from the University of Nairobi, Kenya. Currently, Pamela is the current representative of the Technical University of Kenya to the Kenya Space Agency, working on various projects. You can find her on LinkedIn. We'll share her LinkedIn profile with you. I'm sure she would love to engage with all of you. She's a full member of the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya, and also a formal mentor of the Innovate with EU Space Data Program, a mentor in the African Women in GIS program, as well as a mentor in the Women in Space Kenya mentorship program. So we really could not have asked for a better guest today to engage with us in this particular subject. Somebody who's very passionate around mentoring, very passionate in supporting and sending the elevator down for more women to climb up that ladder, but also with extensive experience working on data sciences, and she could be a really good, valuable resource for us to engage with going forward. I can see we are already responding to the Menti question. Please keep going. We want to hear from you. What is the biggest challenge you face in building your visibility? I'm hearing some people saying communication skills and confidence, opportunity, mentor, lack of clarity on how to begin. Somebody saying confidence, opportunity again, imposter syndrome. I feel that I don't have a specialization in my career. Somebody's saying how to package myself. Always not sure if what I post motivates other young scientists or not. Wow, okay, maybe that is not a young scientist. Maybe you don't consider yourself a young scientist, but you don't know if whatever you post is motivating. Positioning myself strategically and lack of mentorship. Confidence coming up a lot. Mentorship, support system, again, supporters, confidence. How best do I showcase my ability? That is the why question. Fear for rejection. One of the biggest challenge I face is being consistent with my visibility. Imposter syndrome coming back again. Inconsistency. Okay, I do not know how to market myself well. Knowing where to find the right information to have visibility. Confidence, skills, opportunities. Okay. I just want to be private, maybe till I feel it's time. Okay, so how do you know it's time? Okay, feeling inadequate, mentors coming back again. LinkedIn pressure, for sure. There's a lot of pressure. How do you discern which one is the right pressure and which one do you want to succumb to and not? Uh, Lack of confidence. Okay, please keep your responses coming. We will be coming back to this again. Kindly indulge us and keep it coming. We'll come back to that again. But there you are, Dr. Ochungo. You can see what audience is telling us. A lot of people talking about confidence. A lot of people talking about mentorship. A lot of people saying they don't know how to package themselves. A lot of people saying they feel, they're not sure, hesitation. So how do we go about all these challenges that we are facing? Very delighted to have you on board, Dr. Ochungo. Very, very excited to have you. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Doreen, for that great introduction to the program, as well as great introduction to myself. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm so excited to actually read what the people are saying, what the audience is saying. Can you hear me? It's clear?
I can hear you very well. Maybe you just need to increase your volume a little bit.
Let me increase it here. Let me see whether it was low. Is it better now? Hello, is it better?
Okay. I can hear you. I don't know if my colleagues can hear you well, but I can hear you. Go on.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. So I'm really excited to be here, and actually reading the Menti responses is great because a lot of what they're talking about, I'm going to tackle in my talk. All right. So I urge everybody to please stay till the end and let this be, a discussion, interaction, and not so much of a lecture. All right. So I hope everybody can hear me. I hope everybody, if anybody can't, please let me know. Yes. Okay, so I think I will share my slides. Um, Let me share. Okay, can you see my slides?
I can see my slides. You just need to now put the presenter mode,
Full
the
screen?
slideshow mode.
Is it okay now?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So good afternoon, everybody. It's really an honor to be here with you women who represent the future of African science. Today we are talking about visibility, but not visibility as a performance or perfection. And reading some of your responses on the Menti, some of you feel like inadequate or not good enough. But visibility is not about, perfection, or it's not a performance. It is about courage, okay? Courage to do it, even when your voice is shaking a little bit, okay? You just put yourself out there. So when I think about my own journey, I realize that every breakthrough that I've experienced came from a moment of stepping forward before I felt ready. It never felt like the perfect moment, believe me. My hope today is to share not just strategies, but my lived experience, the lived lessons, the real moments that taught me that being invisible or being visible is not about being famous. It's actually about being found. It's actually about being useful and being willing to be seen. So this is me in a conference in Zanzibar. I've presented in so many conferences since let me say my breaking point came into my not breaking point, but the moment of my release or my visibility came in around 2015. So it's been about 10 years of walking that path, walking through hills and valleys and finding myself, and with every day of doing something becoming even better. Okay, so this is me presenting in a conference in Zanzibar, which we had organized as session organizers. So a little bit about me, and this is not to impress you, but just to give you context as to why this conversation matters, okay? So deeply. So I started my journey like many of you, very curious, very determined, but also quite invisible. I didn't grow up imagining that I would one day be speaking about visibility because myself, I was very happy to be invisible. I was actually very shy, quite the quiet person, and very comfortable to be in the background. And I must say that I had some friends who are also very comfortable to be in the background. So, we consoled each other in that background. They're like, I don't want to step forward. I don't want to do this. But I later on realized that even that company was not really helping me to grow into who I was actually meant to be. So I was very comfortable being in the background. But then science has a way of stretching us. Every project, every classroom, every presentation pushed me into spaces I once thought were reserved for other people and not me. Somewhere along the way, visibility stopped being something that I feared. Along the long way, not too long ago, along the recent way, visibility stopped being something that I feared and became something that I used. And I use now visibility to teach others, because if you do not want to be seen, how will you teach others? So I used this visibility to teach others, to mentor others, and to open doors for women who are just like you. So again, as Doreen already introduced me, I'm really passionate about geospatial science. I'm passionate about conservation, about making a change in people's livelihoods, and as well empowering women in science and leadership. And this keeps me going and keeps me waking up every day. And I'm also going to talk about the importance of passion. So before we dive in, I want to give you a sense of where we are going. This isn't really a lecture. It is a journey that we're going to take together. And I'm going to give you my journey, okay? We are going to explore what visibility really means, how it shapes our scientific careers, and how each of us can build it intentionally. But more importantly, I want you to stay open today. I want you to stay open to reflecting on your own story, your own voice, your own potential. Because everything that we're going to talk about today becomes even more powerful when you connect it to your own lived experience. So please keep an open mind, stay open, and think about your own situation in regard to what I'm going to be talking about today. Why does visibility matter? Visibility matters because talent alone is not enough. I don't know, I'm sure many of you know very talented people, people who topped high schools, people who topped, at the university. But now, if you're asked where they are, you're not even sure. You never hear from them. What really happened? I remember when we were at the university, some of the really brilliant people that I remember were doing, some of those courses like electrical engineering, like what have you, fell somehow by the wayside. Because of what? Because something happened and visibility just became zero. There are brilliant women across Africa that are doing remarkable work. But the brilliance in silence is often unseen. You must be seen. Unseen work struggles. It'll struggle to attract opportunities. It'll struggle to attract partnerships. It'll struggle to attract investments. I learned at some point that the world cannot value what it does not see. If it does not see it, it literally does not exist. So essentially, visibility is not about ego, and many will think it is ego. And this is something that you must push by the wayside, the opinions of others, okay? Because if I was to have listened to others' opinion, I would have faded away a long time ago. A lot of people will think that at the point when you're trying to be visible, that you're being egoistic, that you're being, proud and what have you. But essentially, it's not about pride. It's just about letting others see what you are doing. It's about impact. It's about putting your work where it can travel, influence others, and influence decisions, and also create change, which is what we are looking at as scientists. The whole purpose of science is to create change, come up with innovations, come up with development, and these need to be out there for change to occur. You cannot be doing these things in silence, okay? You have, you have to make sure that you're visible. And believe me, sometimes one moment of visibility can shift the entire trajectory of your career. Just one moment of visibility can change your life forever. So do not hesitate. Do not hesitate to make yourself visible. So what is visibility then? What is visibility? How do we define visibility? So visibility, when we say visibility, we often think of being known, of being celebrated, and especially in this world of today, which, social media is such a big deal. Celebrities, the so-called celebs, are out there making the rest of us feel like, we are not doing enough. But visibility in science is much deeper than that. It's about being recognized for your ideas. It's about being recognized for your expertise, for your contribution. It's also about influence, okay? You hear about influencers and you're thinking, this person is an influencer in, I don't know what space, they are marketing what products or influencing people to visit specific places and so on. And we must also become influencers in science, okay? We want to influence the science at local levels, at regional levels, at international levels. We have to bring this conversation on board, and we can only do it by being visible. It's about being part of important conversations, not just as an observer sitting in the background, comfortable to be in the background, but you have to be a voice, or you must want to be a voice that shapes the direction of science. Okay? Visibility is not about fame. It's not that now you want to be famous. It's about alignment. Where does your work, your passion, and your presence meet? And when that alignment happens, doors start opening. Doors start opening not because you chased them, but because your work spoke loudly enough to be heard. So, how do you ensure that your work speaks loudly? First of all, you must invest in the quality of your work. It must be good. It must be good enough. Okay. And then a lot of other things will have to come in. And I'll just start by giving a small example of early in my life, early in my career, before I even joined the working, class. I was in my final year. That is the fifth year of my university undergraduate. And my project at that time, GIS was a very new area. That is geoinformation systems. For those of you who have not heard of it, that's people call it different things like geospatial information systems or geographic information systems and so on. And I'll also tell you about how I landed in that particular area and became really passionate about it. So when I was in my final year at the University of Nairobi, one of the requirements before graduation was to have done a project, come up with a project, and carry it out successfully to the end. And we used to do this for 2 semesters. So every Friday for the 2 semesters was set apart for doing your project. And because at that time we did not really have, what you take for granted now was not so obvious then, okay? So computers, for instance, I was in the main campus of the University of Nairobi in the Department of Surveying at the Faculty of Engineering. So we had very small PCs. We call them PCs, I think personal computers. They were very small. They barely had any capacity. And so we used to walk across to Chiromo. So Chiromo was known for computing. They had the School of Computing there. So we used to walk across and use what you call a mainframe computer. Many of you cannot relate to what is a mainframe computer. And in fact, I said those computers should have been put in a museum so that now the younger people can see what we went through in our struggles to, to get to where we are now. And so at that time, because computers, we did not really have the capacity to carry out the kind of analysis I needed, which is the geospatial information analysis, I was attached to a government department called DRSRS, which is the Department of Resource Surveys and Remote Sensing. So there, they had been funded by some Europeans to set up a proper GIS lab, and so I was attached there. And so I used to go there every Friday and be guided, mentored by some of the earlier adopters of GIS, so the ones who got into GIS early, like Dr. Mohammed Said, one of my great mentors, Stella, another one of my great mentors. So they really showed me how to work the system. And while I was there used to be a scientist from ILRI, the International Livestock Research Institute, who used to also come there to be taught GIS because it was a very new thing. So he started becoming interested in my project and asked me a few questions. And I, talked to him and told him all about the project, which was about the emergency routing of a Nairobi fire engine, a very technical project using GIS. So he got very interested and told me, young lady, as soon as you finish your undergraduate studies, give me a call and I will see what to do. And so I gave him a call after I finished my university, and the rest is history. I ended up working at ILRI for 15 years, okay? So at that moment, I realized that visibility is not about being famous, but it's about your work being seen, your work being respected enough to open doors. My maps and my analysis spoke before I did. And again, this brings the importance of networking. Now that we understand what visibility is, I want to speak honestly about why it matters so much for women, especially African women in science. The reality is that many of us are not unseen because we lack talent or skill. Let's be very clear about that one. We have the talent, we have the skill. But we remain unseen because the systems were not built with us in mind. They were built with others in mind, but not us African women in mind. And therefore, we remain quite underrepresented globally. One of the biggest barriers that I faced as a woman scientist was not a lack of skill. It was actually being underestimated. Early in my career, I sometimes found myself in rooms where my contribution was overlooked until they were echoed by somebody else who was, more acceptable. You know what I'm talking about. I remember one time leading a technical discussion on geospatial data analysis and realizing that I had to speak twice as confidently just to be heard once. Another experience that I had is when I was doing a research exchange during my PhD in the US at Penn State University. And I was sitting in a room. At that time, remember, I was still a PhD student. I was sitting in a room with two postdocs, one who was extremely friendly and very excited to hear about my research, but another one who simply used to say hi and, not say much after that. But so I decided, just go ahead and do my work and, life goes on. So towards the end of my research stay in Penn State University in the US, I was asked to give a presentation. And so when I gave my presentation, and it was a very technical things, and I think, they really took it really well. It was received very well, the talk, and the research was really approved. This is when the following day, that research, the postdoc started talking to me. And I got really amazed and started wondering why, after a full month, am I being engaged by this postdoc now? But I realized it's because of the perception around, maybe African women cannot be as good in these technical things as, maybe a white male, something like that. So after that, he started engaging me because he saw my work. Over time, I've learned that visibility is not just about being present. It's about claiming your space, which is what I did, claiming your space with quiet confidence. So I started preparing thoroughly because I realized that preparation will open doors. So be prepared always. Do your background work excellently. Excellence must be second nature to you. So I started preparing thoroughly. I started standing firm in my expertise and backing my idea with results. The moment that people began to associate my name with solid work, the barrier slowly started to crumble. And it will crumble when you put in the extra work. Today, when I mentor young women in science, and I do that quite a lot, I remind them this. You do not have to raise your voice to be powerful. You just have to speak from a place of preparation and purpose. And believe me, you will be listened to. What is the impact of visibility? Visibility doesn't just change your career, it expands your world. One of the clearest examples for me came during my PhD journey when I was doing my research work at ISIPE. So ISIPE is the International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology. And because my work was relating the landscape to honeybees, I was based there as a DAD or DAD scholar. So one time I made a presentation as part of my PhD work at a workshop with no idea who may see it. In fact, at that time, we were 4 PhD students in that particular project. Of course, ISIPE has many students and used to give about 10 to 12 DAD, what they call DAD RPs scholarships, which is a very prestigious scholarship to be on. So we used to be placed in different projects. And at that time, I was placed in the environmental health project. And there were 3 other PhDs in that environmental health project who were ahead of me in terms of they had started a year, 2, 3 years before me. So I was the newest PhD student, so to speak. And so, in fact, I was placed last, not last, of the 4 PhD students, I was the 4th to speak. And so after my talk, which I took it as just, I'm telling you what I'm doing with my PhD, after the session, during the cocktail hour, a professor from Penn State University approached me. And Penn State, by the way, is one of the really, it's almost Ivy League university in the US. So she approached me because she was attending the workshop and she liked my work, despite me having been the newest PhD student at ISIPE. So she approached me because she had connected with what I was saying. And that one interaction opened doors to a fully funded research stay in the US, whereby I learned how to carry out laboratory analysis for the pollen that I was collecting out there in the field. And it gave me such a lot of leverage and also the ability to publish in quite a high impact journal. So that experience taught me something that was very profound. Visibility multiplies opportunities in ways you cannot predict. You never know who is watching, who might be listening, or who might be quietly championing you from afar. Your work can travel further than you can imagine, but only if you let it be seen. You must let it be seen. And this is what I like about award. I'm not new to award because it is something that was familiar to me even from my ILRI days. And I really had wanted to be a member of award, but I think my shortcoming came in that I was not really an agricultural scientist, but I'm from the geospatial science. But I've always really loved award and what it stands for. And, award is there to bridge the visibility gap to ensure that young African women in science do not just produce excellent work, but their work is also seen, heard, and recognized. And award invests heavily in leadership, mentorship, and confidence building because visibility is not a solo journey. Myself, when I joined the Technical University of Kenya as a lecturer, mentorship transformed my own confidence. One thing is when you have to lecture people, you have to be able to stand in front of them and confidently tell them what it is that you want to deliver. And believe me, I also started lecturing when I was still quite shy. And so, I would love to hear from the opinions of those I taught earlier, around 2016, what they thought of my teaching skills then. But as I continued teaching and lecturing, I became more confident. So the more you do it, the more confident you become. One of the people who has really held my hand and mentored me at the Technical University of Kenya is one Professor Farah Hussein, who held my hand, introduced me to people of influence, and then from there, the rest was history. He believed in me academically, he involved me in what he was doing, and therefore, this is something that is so critical. The mentorship that many of you have talked about here, have indicated in your mentee that you lack mentors. I can say for sure that mentorship is really critical. So many of the conferences that I speak in now is because of the people that were introduced to me by Professor Farah, and then I took it from there. I took it from there and worked now on my own and was able to craft my own sort of niche. So you really need to take advantage of award because it doesn't just give you information, it gives you courage and a mirror to remind you of who you already are. Sorry, I've gone ahead a little bit. So let me just tell you about my little bit of beginnings because, there's always a backstory to everything. So Mine started in a classroom at State House Girls High School in Nairobi. I really don't have the language for it then, but at that time, I already was drawn to patterns, logic, and problem solving. And even though my original path, what I thought my original dream was to study law, because I was a very argumentative person. And my dad looked at me and said, I think you should be a lawyer. And so throughout my primary school years, I wanted to be a lawyer. First of all, because my dad loved law, and secondly, because, my nature of being quite argumentative was, guiding me towards law. But when I reached high school, I discovered that no, I do not really like the subjects for law. Not that I was not performing well in them, but I was more drawn towards the sciences, towards problem solving, towards logic, towards patterns. Life gently nudged me towards science without even knowing it. It's what I liked. So looking back, I see that moment as the first sign that visibility starts with choosing the path that feels true to you. Do not choose the path that somebody else chooses for you, whether it's your parents, whether it's, whichever relative says that this one is going to be a doctor or this one is going to be an engineer because they've always wanted to have this in their family. It's about you doing what is meant for you, discovering where you're supposed to be. So visibility starts with choosing the path that feels true, even when it surprises you yourself, but it must feel true to you. And so this is how I began my journey in science. So finding my passion, and this is what I encourage you to do, to find your passion. Even within your agricultural sciences, what really drives your passion? Is it economics? Is it extension? Is it breeding? Is it what have you? All those areas. Is it scientific communication? So find what what you really love, what gets you up in the morning. And, you will not go wrong with that. So my real spark did not ignite until my 4th year at the University of Nairobi at the School of Surveying in the Faculty of Engineering. The first 3 years were almost a blur. We're doing a lot of the engineering part of it, a lot of the measurements and so on, which was good, but it was not really driving me yet. In my 4th year, I first encountered digital mapping with Professor Mulaku, and remote sensing with now Professor Wayumba. And everything suddenly clicked. It clicked. It felt like discovering a language that my mind was already speaking. And that taught me something really important. Passion is not always instant. It will not just come like that. Sometimes you have to become a little bit curious, explore a little bit, and then curiosity will meet the right environment, and suddenly you know that you are in the right place. So find your passion. Even within your area, there has to be a niche for you, something that really gets you waking up every day. Now let's talk about networking. So one of the biggest turning points in my career came not from a classroom, but from a conversation. My final year, as I've already talked about, the final year undergraduate project, so I'm not going to delve so much into that. But that experience of ILRI, whereby I worked for 15 years and was even funded by ILRI to do my master's, because they used to have a program whereby they would, it was called a staff development program. So I was funded and I did my master's at Manchester Metropolitan University in UK. And this just led me to grow even further. So that experience of Mr. Onyango Kelo from ILRI taught me that networking is not about working the room. It's about authentic connections. It's about preparation. It's about being willing to reach out, even when you are unsure of the outcome. Put yourself out there. You must put yourself out there. Some of you have talked of being shy, and I've told you that I was also shy, but you can come out of that shyness slowly, slowly by slowly, just a day at a time, a step at a time. The other philosophy that I have, and which worked for me so well, is to do it afraid. Okay, this is one of my mantras, doing it afraid. Visibility is deeply tied to courage. And courage is not the absence of fear. It's not the absence of fear. Remember David from the Bible? For those of you who are Christians, David fought Goliath, but was he not scared? He was scared. But he did it anyway. He went ahead and did it and won, even without thinking that he would win. You need to do it even when you're scared. That is what everybody who you think is up there does. They do it even when they're afraid. Moses, let me bring about another biblical example. Moses also did it afraid. In fact, he was telling God that, how will I even speak in front of Pharaoh? And I can't even speak. But God told him what? Get somebody who can assist you to speak, but go. So do it even when you're afraid. So visibility is deeply tied to courage. And courage is not the absence of fear, as I've already said. It is action in spite of the fear. I'll never forget my early poster presentations at ISIPE. So in ISIPE, I always say I was thrown into the deep end, because at ILRI, I used to be very much in the background and, not, having too much of an opportunity to speak. So when I joined ISIPE, immediately I was thrown into the deep end. You must present in place A, you must speak in workshop B, you're going to present your work in workshop C, and so on. It was part of the requirements of the PhD. And so I found myself in many cases very scared, but I had to do it because I had no option. So my first presentation, I was actually presenting a poster at the ISIPE Governing Council workshop, whereby they would come and judge the posters and judge papers, and then gift those who have won. So mine was a poster because, I had just started, and in fact, it was a proposal poster. I was very nervous. I was very unsure of myself. And I was very convinced, rightly so, that others were much more qualified because I was very fresh in doing my PhD. However, despite all that, I prepared adequately. And as I've said, early preparation is important. So I prepared early and adequately with regard to the content. And I stood there in front of my poster. Every time somebody came around, I would speak about it and speak convincingly about it. Try to speak with conviction. Every time I spoke, even if I was a bit shaky, the fear shrank just a little bit. The fear reduced every time I spoke, it reduced a little bit. And this was my first training ground for doing it afraid. The results dumbfounded me, absolutely. I won Best Scientific Poster judged by the ISIPE Governing Council. This one shocked me greatly. So this always amazes me, this picture of, best poster category. I was the winner. And it really grew my profile at ISIPE, even as a very young, not that young in age, but I was young in the field of this science. And I spoke and I won. And this one will always stay etched in my memory. And not just my memory, it's in my CV. And when you're asked, have you ever won any awards? Yes, I have won an award. Why? Because I spoke even when I was afraid. So do it afraid. So saying yes to presenting at ISIPE didn't just strengthen my confidence, it changed my career. That single act of showing up also later on led to a collaboration with Penn State University, as I already said, in a fully funded research stay, and reminded me that sometimes the opportunity does not come from being fearless, but comes from being present. So it is deeply tied to courage. So just do it despite feeling afraid. Go ahead and speak, okay? Now, what about we are women? I know there's some men here, and even the men will benefit from this. But we are women, and women, we usually have to balance a lot, okay? And this balancing is key to sustaining visibility. Remember, we are talking about visibility. Visibility is not a one-day thing. You want to be visible and to influence, policies and decisions in your field, all right? It is not easy for us, okay? It's not easy for us. Being visible is not just about showing up, it's about staying up. And staying up requires balance. As women, you have to balance so much. I learned this while I was juggling my PhD as a full-time research student. And then I'd also been given the opportunity to teach at the university. So I had to find evenings whereby I would teach at the university. I had children. I think at that time, my youngest was less than 10 or just about 10 years, okay? No, my eldest was just about 10 and my youngest was about 3 or 4 years old. So, and I had three of them. So it's not easy. And my husband was working away. Okay. I realized that you must have support systems if you want to sustain your visibility. Support systems are not a luxury, they are a strategy and a very important strategy at that. You cannot be visible if you're exhausted, if you're overwhelmed, or if you're doing everything alone. Balance is what will sustain brilliance and sustain visibility. So one of the strategies that I learned is having strong support systems around. And for me, this meant having a reliable house help, okay? You cannot sustain visibility if you're always running around saying, oh, I cannot be present for this workshop. I cannot attend this conference because, my house help has run away. And these things happen, okay? It happens, but try and be a bit clever about hiring the right help in the house, about maintaining the right help in the house. It's also a strategy that you have to build in your house. So make sure that you have a very reliable help in the house so that you can be present in conferences, in workshops, in places where you need to be seen. Another thing is also, reliable, maybe taxi drivers and so on. Because I realized that when I traveled, and my husband is away, the children still need to be taken places. For instance, they have sports events, or they have to attend catechism in school, or in church, and so on and so forth. We had, I had to ensure that I have this kind of reliable people. So there's all that chain of people around you, even if it's a sister, a friend, somebody who can help and be there even when you're away, okay? Or you have to attend to a very important meeting or so on that will ensure you stay visible. So do not think that you have to do it alone. You cannot do it alone. You have to balance this act, and you have to balance it by creating a very strong support system around you. And all this is very strategic. Be very strategic about all these things in your life. Okay? Don't just be that woman who every day you have chased away the house help. Why? Because the tables are dirty and you have small children. What is more important here? Is it the children being taken care of? I know the tables need to be clean, but you have to be strategic about that and say, okay, you can be, cleaning on Saturdays, but ensuring that the kids are taken care of from Monday to Friday. So in that way, you create a balance because these people are also human, okay? Don't act like you can do it alone because you will not. You will burn out. Now, this is a very important thing, and somebody mentioned it, more than one person, and I'm very excited that you mentioned it in your mentee about, defining your expertise. You need to be known for something, okay? Do not be a jack of all trades. You cannot make it if you're a jack of all trades, because then, who are you? You're a master of none. So one of the most empowering steps in visibility is actually defining what you want to be known for. For me, that clarity came when I embraced geoinformation systems, when I embraced remote sensing and conservation, because this is where my passion lay. So passion goes with expertise. So even though my background started in core engineering and surveying, I found my niche by listening to where my curiosity felt the most alive. Remember that the world will remember specialists, not generalists. So you need to be a specialist in your area so that when they're looking for a specialist in an area, for instance, if they're looking for a specialist in agricultural extension, they know who to pick. If they're looking for a specialist in communication, agricultural scientific communication, they know that they pick Doreen. If they're looking for an expert in agricultural economics, they know who to pick. So try and craft your niche and go deep into that niche, such that when they're looking for somebody who is an expert in that area, and an expert means somebody they can call today and is able to even present tomorrow because they know the subject so well. Make sure that you craft your niche. And I want to ask you participants to please reflect on your unique scientific identities. Where are you strongest? Where is it that when you speak, you are felt the most? So make sure that you craft your specific niche so that you can be an expert in that area, and that creates even more visibility for you. The other part is to be able to communicate strategically. Okay, and this is where a number of you spoke in Menti thinking that, they want to stay private, which is okay. Privacy is good. But if you want to make a difference, you cannot be private with your science. You can be private with your own life, but not with your science. So you can separate the two, okay? Separate your personal life. You don't want that to be seen in public, that's okay. But don't separate your scientific life. Make sure that that one is seen. If you publish a paper, if you publish an article, please post it, okay? Don't be shy about it. Post it, because how will we know that you exist? How will we know that Jennifer Mwangeka exists? How will we know that, we need to know who you are. Remember that we are living in a digital world where your online presence is your second CV. I learned that being active on platforms like LinkedIn, ORCID, and Google Scholar is not self-promotion. It is documentation, okay? You put your work out there and you're helping somebody else. Yeah, if you put your papers out there, somebody else will read it and build the knowledge around it, okay? So for myself, I've really built a very nice Google Scholar page. All my work is automatically updated. When I publish, it's automatically updated there. I have an ORCID, okay? Many of you, please look into what an ORCID ID is. It's almost like your academic ID in the scientific world. So you need an ORCID. LinkedIn, use LinkedIn to share your work, because some employers will actually go to your LinkedIn, will actually go to your Google Scholar if they're even considering hiring you, or your ORCID. Go to ResearchGate, open an account. It will ensure that you also get, apart from visibility, you also get free papers, because you're a member. Papers that you ordinarily buy, you won't have to buy. You will get for free. Go to academia, okay? And become that person who shares their work online. And this will lead to many collaborations. For me, it has led and continues to lead to collaborations I would never have found otherwise. Literally, visibility grows when your digital voice matches your scientific voice. Your digital voice is your scientific voice. Personally, I'm very active and I don't shy away from these platforms, and I post my work. So whenever I have a talk like this one, academia, I've posted it on, like this talk today, I posted it on Facebook. And you'll find that many people who are my associates will join and learn something. And maybe a potential collaboration can come out of it. It's on LinkedIn, I've put it on my status. So do not think of it as if you're being egoistic, as if you're being, you're always out there posting. No, post it to be able to build knowledge, to be able to build collaborations, and so on. Again, network intentionally. Just like your digital footprint matters, your relationships matter even more. Over the years, my work has taken me across disciplines. That's the beauty of my work also. I'm able to cross disciplines. So from agriculture at ILRI to entomology at ISIPE, right now to archaeology with the project I'm working with, the Mayasam project at Cambridge, to conservation. That interdisciplinary visibility did not happen accidentally. It happened because I stayed curious about people outside of my immediate field. So don't just stay in your comfort zone. Try and collaborate across disciplines. And in fact, these days, if you're writing a proposal for funding, you will rarely get it funded if it is within your discipline alone. Literally, all funders now are looking for interdisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity, and so on, because the world is interdisciplinary. You know, if you want to solve an agricultural problem, there is a soil issue that has to be looked at there. There's a community, there's a climate, there's etc., etc. So it is interdisciplinarity. So you need to stay curious about people outside of your immediate field, and this is where innovation actually lives. So remember, visibility grows in circles and not in silos whereby you're working in your own small office. Please expand your comfort zone. Mentorship. I'm so happy because so many of you also spoke about mentorship and lack of it. Mentorship is really one of the most powerful visibility engines. When you pour into others, because people pour into you, you also need to pour into others. It almost reminds me of a calendar. When we were growing up, my mother was working for the NSSF, and they used to have this calendar. Every year they'd be given a calendar, and it had pots. So like, you know, several pots, maybe like 10 pots. And each pot had a hole, and it would pour into the next and into the next and so on. And so that really has lived in my mind, because to me, it's about mentorship. Somebody pours into you, also pour into somebody else. So when you pour into others, your influence multiplies. And I've seen this firsthand by watching, you know, by being poured into and also pouring into others. And believe me, I've watched some of my mentees grow into, you know, into such, you know, important people. Their confidence reminded me of the generational impact of one voice. When you lift others, it does not dim your light. It actually extends your light. Mentorship expands, enhances your reputation, your empathy, and your visibility. And I just want to share this. This is an upcoming webinar by these two people, Mary Mude and Godwin Muridi. And these are young students who I have personally mentored at, you know, at Technical University of Kenya. This young lady just graduated last year and now has already been offered a scholarship in Austria and France, and it's an Erasmus Mundus scholarship called the Copernicus Master in Digital Earth, and we are really proud of her. And Godwin as well, he's running his own company, and look at them now. Look at what they're doing. So this is the, you know, the power of mentorship and having mentees, and you know, you grow the next generation. We need to be able to grow the next generation, and that actually enhances your visibility as a scientist. What about, you know, making your science public and not just scientific? So visibility means also stepping beyond the academic circles. Get out of your academic circles. Talk to people in church. Talk to young people. I also happen to be a matron of a group of teenagers in our church. And the other day they had a career talk, which was really impactful to them, because they came to talk afterwards and say, Madam, I would like to do this course. I would like to do, what do I need to do? So go and talk outside of your academic circles. Whether I'm speaking to students, communities, or professionals, I'm reminded that science becomes most powerful when it is accessible. When you translate your work for the public, you do not dilute it, you expand its reach, you make your science live. So visibility includes accessibility. It includes making science relatable and not just staying within your little, you know, cocoon, whereby you're discussing only, you know, terminologies related to your own area of science and your own, you know, equations and so on and so forth. Become involved in public. If you hear of an opportunity that they're looking for a speaker in a certain area, get out and go and speak. Go and speak, and do it afraid, okay? Let the people hear what you do. Let them know what you do, all right? So this really, making science relatable really is important for visibility. The other thing is you must stay consistent, okay? Somebody also mentioned there that consistency is a problem. You must stay consistent, and consistency requires work. You cannot sleep and expect to be consistent. it requires work, and it is a habit. Visibility is not a moment, it is a practice. Make it a practice. It's the small, consistent actions, the posts on your social medias, the publications that you make, the conference submissions that build your scientific identity. I call it sustainable visibility. Last year, I went to Rome in July for a conference, and this is with the MySam project that I'm working with as a postdoc. So this was, a conference called the European Association of Archaeologists, and I presented my paper there. While I was in Rome, that was in July, I think in July, there was yet another conference that was going to happen in September in a place called Frascati, which is within the metropolitan of Rome, but not really in Rome itself, within the metropolitan of Rome. And I had submitted another paper there, which was accepted, but now I was gonna look for funding to go for the September workshop, the September conference, and I didn't know how. But there was also another conference, there was a project that I had been involved in, whereby the European Space Association funds African research collaboration with European partners. And I was a member of it, although I was not the principal investigator. Now, the PI was not able to attend, and so they looked for me. And they told me, we are giving you a wildcard opportunity to come. We are funding fully for you to come to Italy, to the European Space Association and present. And I'm telling you, I was so excited. So I was in Rome in July, August, and then I was in Rome again in September because they looked and they saw that this lady, who is a member of this project A, has also submitted another paper. And so she's very active. And so let's give her this funding to come and present. So I went and presented 2 papers at the ESA. That is that picture there. That is me presenting at ESA. And it was an amazing opportunity, as well as just the contacts that I made there. So that happened because I stayed consistent even when outcomes were uncertain. Now, about conferences. Many of us attend conferences and then you go and sit in the back of the room and just, listen and get out and run back to your room and so on and so forth, and only interact with the people that you went with. That is not a very smart strategy for conferences or conference attendance. You need to maximize on conference attendance to enhance your visibility as a scientist. Conferences are visibility accelerators. I call them visibility accelerators. You don't just attend a conference, you show up strategically. So always have a strategy when you're attending a conference. Present, ask questions, smart questions, mingle, document your experience. Okay, whether you're documenting in LinkedIn, you're documenting in a blog, you're documenting on Facebook, document it. Some of my most unexpected collaborations began during tea breaks in conferences, during poster corners, during side events, during cocktail hours, and so on. So the conference itself is just the structure, but the magic actually happens in the conversations. So some of the key strategies I've shown there, for instance, showing up intentionally, make sure you prioritize conferences that are aligned with your niche. Again, don't just throw yourself in all conferences so that people wonder that we saw you in this conference here for agriculture. Next week, we've seen you in another one for physics. So who are you exactly? What's your niche? So show up intentionally, present whenever it's possible, even if it's posters. Even if it's a poster, your name is there, your ideas are in that room. Network with a purpose, yeah? Make sure that you prepare a short introduction in your mind. We call it elevator pitch, which can be just a 1-minute pitch. Seek out key researchers and follow up. Don't let it go. Follow up within 48 hours. Recently, I was in a conference in Dakar, that is last month. And I say that it's been it was a very fruitful conference because I got out and I made sure that I made some links with very critical people. And we're in discussions to, come up with proposals, come up with ways in which they can come and talk to students and so on and so forth. So this has to be impactful. You need to be visible beyond the stage. Don't just stay in one place. Attend side events, volunteer to moderate if possible, join breakout discussions, share your presence, okay? Post your participation, document your contribution, take photos, collect contacts, and record key insights so that you can have future collaborations. Next is to say yes to opportunities even when they don't pay. And I've done this for a lot of my career. Some of the most important opportunities in my career did not come with a check. Most of them have not. But they came with visibility, they came with relationships, and the open doors. So early in my journey, and not so even now, I say yes to very many unpaid contributions, but these help to build a reputation. That's very important for visibility. They help to build a reputation that later have led to funded roles and also international collaborations. But not every yes is strategic. You need to also choose very wisely, okay? You need to align it with your long-term goals. You need to say yes if it builds your portfolio, your profile, or partnerships. And so you need to also consider the visibility to effort ratio. If you're putting in too much effort, you need to rethink, okay? And also avoid burnout. Don't overdo it because you have to balance a lot in your life. Don't overdo it, but also don't underdo it. Again, the balance comes in. But unpaid opportunities can be seeds to future harvests. That's what I can say. Now, what are some of the common barriers? And a lot of you here spoke about imposter syndrome. Yes, this is one of the biggest issues that we have as women scientists. You delve into these high-end fields, and then you keep getting these feelings of, I'm not good enough. Will this be considered as, am I really telling the truth? Am I doing this the right way, etc.? So let's be honest. Fear, culture, and perfectionism are real barriers, and they hold us back, especially women. I always say that men have they have a certain confidence, even if they're not even maybe as good as you. I'm not saying men are not good as, but I'm saying you might find a man who is not as good as you, but you think you're worse in terms of, your expertise or your know-how, because, society has wired us in a certain way. I've had moments where I have almost withdrawn from opportunities because I felt unprepared. But each time I learned that fear shrinks when you step into the room instead of holding back from it. Perfection is not the goal. Don't let imposter feelings, fear, these are normal and you will feel them not now, but also into the future. It doesn't end. You have to keep pressing forward despite the imposter feelings and the fear. Don't let them hold back. So perfection is not the goal, but your presence is. Try and break free from these feelings, despite them being there, and they will always be there. There's no time that you'll say you're not having fear or you're not having imposter feelings. Don't let them hold you back. Keep pushing despite those things. So I just have, as I come towards the end, I want to talk about overcoming these barriers. So nobody becomes visible alone. We rise because somebody encouraged us, believed in us, or reminded us who we are. My journey has been shaped by people who held my hand in difficult seasons and celebrated me in triumphant ones. And not everybody will celebrate you or hold your hand, but there are those who will. Do not focus on those who do not celebrate you or who think you're being egoistic or you're too much. There's always that, you're too much. Don't focus on those. Focus on those who hold your hands in the difficult season and celebrate you in the triumphant ones. Surround yourself with those who water your courage. And I just want to say, women, we really need to lean on each other because society was not wired for us being visible. It was wired for us to be invisible. we need to lean on each other. So many people, men and women, have held my hand and lifted me when I needed it. So please stay together with others. Cheer them on in their journey, even as they cheer you. And then together you can overcome these barriers. So nobody can do it alone. So I have just the final 5-step visibility roadmap, which is what I've talked about: show up, speak, publish, network, mentor. And of course, in between there, you have all the others like balancing and so on, but these are critical. So if I had to summarize everything visibility has taught me, it comes down to 5 things. The 5 that I've talked about: the show up, the speak, the publish, network, and mentor. These steps look small on their own, but together they build a scientist whose work cannot be ignored. They will not be able to ignore you if you do all this. Visibility is a practice. It's not a personality trait that you say, I'm a shy person or I am this. Visibility is a practice. It's an action, okay? So you need to always do it. So as we close, I want to leave you with this. Visibility is not about recognition, it's about legacy. It's about your voice. It's about your research. It's about your presence. And your presence matters more than you ever will know. And sometimes the world is just waiting for you to step forward. But if you don't step forward, the world will move on without you, okay? That's me again. That is me earlier this year in Portugal, making a presentation in areas, in fields, in countries I never thought that I would be. But it all started with that small step, doing it afraid, trembling at the beginning, but now I don't tremble anymore. Why? Because I keep doing it. I keep doing it. So I just want to say that courage starts with showing up and letting yourself be seen. This is a quote by Brené Brown. So thank you so much, and I would love to hear your reflections and your questions. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. We couldn't have selected a better guest for this conversation this afternoon. Please join me in appreciating Pamela. I am so inspired. I thank you so much, Pamela, for sharing your stories. You know, those stories, I kept on waiting, and there are many stories, because in those stories, you not only, became vulnerable to us, but also show us what is possible. And more importantly, that, we are not alone. Anybody who is talking about, I was, scared, and you're telling us very specific examples. Thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough for just sharing those experiences with that and for really inspiring us. But I think I'm taking away very many lessons. I was following very keenly. It's like this webinar was for me. Never mind that I'm not a young scientist. I'm young at heart. But I was listening to you talking about showing up. But I think being confident, practicing. But I think one fundamental element of all this that anchors all this, and you've said visibility is not a moment, is around preparation. Let us be masters of our crafts. Be a master of your craft. Prepare, build yourself. Don't appear for an opportunity unprepared, because you're going to set yourself up. Already there's a perception out there. Now imagine if you show up and you've not prepared. So for me, the very, very one key thing that you've mentioned here is around preparation. I really liked what you said about mentorship being one of the 5. And a lot of the people who are here, I'm really pleased to see a lot of award alumni, but there are also very many participants of the leadership program who are very young women under 35 years of age. It doesn't mean that you cannot be a mentor. You're never too young to become a mentor. You don't have to wait to get to whatever age or to position X to become a mentor. You can also mentor. But you also mentioned something. For example, when you're talking about your mentor at the Technical University of Kenya, you were saying that he introduced you, and something very important that you mentioned, you took it up. You're saying, he introduced me, then I took it up. So you also have a role to play. You know, it's very disappointing when you're introduced or doors are opened for you and you don't show up, you don't take up those opportunities. You know, you said you took it up from there. But also you talked about one last thing that I want to mention. A lot of the opportunities that you've mentioned you've received or the opportunities you've heard are because of you belong to an association. Yeah, I picked that. You are in a professional association. You are in a program of mentoring. So I think it's also important to mention other avenues that would support us to get into, you know, increase and enhance our visibility. So professional associations is something that that I picked from your presentation. I can see some people are saying they have to leave, but we have some questions here, and I wanted to highlight something for you, one of them for you. There was a question from Praise. I wanted to bring this to you. Dr. Ochungo mentioned stay consistent. For someone just starting to build a visibility platform like a blog, documenting on LinkedIn for a broader audience, what's the right balance between quality and quantity? I'd like you to give this one a go first. And then what can a doctoral student do to gain visibility and build a strong network? I think this is everything we've handled today. How do I connect with Dr. Pamela? I have keen interest in GIS. Okay, I'll let you answer Praise, and then you can talk about how they can connect with you.
Thank you so much. I'm really, really happy to read these, comments, and also to hear that many people have been impacted by my talk. I'm really excited, and thank you for the questions. With regard to balancing between quality and quantity, isn't it?
Yes.
As I said, yes, as I said earlier, ensure your work is up to standards, and not just standards for your own space, but standards that are localized, regionalized, and internationalized. You need to be part of a global conversation. There is no shortcut to doing good science. Because, when we're talking about science, we're talking about scalable solutions. And so you don't want to give, half-baked ideas just because you want to be visible. I don't mind even if you're posting once in 2 months, but whatever you're posting is crucial. It's something that's important. It's something that you've given your time to. You've prepared and you've taken your time on that research. Even if it's once in 5 months, it is still okay. You do not have to make weekly posts or monthly posts that are really not, they do not carry their weight in terms of impact. So take your time and do something important. Prepare, as I've already said, preparation is critical. And then you post. And when you post, even just that one post in 3, 4, 5 months, believe me, somebody is going to see it. Somebody is going to see it. And even if you're applying for something, you can always refer to that, okay? So I say, do not rush to, to give quantitative outcomes, but make sure that the quantity is balanced with quality, even if it's once in 6 months. But make sure your name can be heard somewhere or seen somewhere. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm seeing a lot of questions now coming in, but we are running out of time. So I think I'm going to request some of you to share with us these questions. I can see somebody from Malawi, Mary from Malawi, asking for a presentation outline. I think that is something that we can very easily share with you. So if you could just share that question with us via our award queries email. There was a question from Susan, presenting whenever possible. Is it possible to present a research idea or framework that has not been validated by data? I think this really depends on the context, because if you're presenting a research idea, you had Pamela sharing about when she was presenting her proposal, I believe. So it depends on the context, but I would say with a fair amount of confidence that you should never present something that is not grounded on evidence. because then you're setting yourself up to fail. There's an opportunity for people to really poke holes. If it's an ongoing work but is grounded on evidence, on data collection, with a very, very clear, robust framework, a methodology that is scientific, then absolutely yes. Otherwise, no. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, even if it's a proposal, it comes from literature. So you've done your literature background and you're looking at a gap that needs to be filled. So that is also based on knowledge that is existing. So you need to do a lot of groundwork. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we've come to the end. I know that we shared at the beginning, very many of us were talking about confidence, very many of us are talking about imposter syndrome, very many of us were talking about inconsistency, or some saying, oh, I want to be private, and we've heard from Pamela about creating that balance. I also really liked what you said about a support system. It's not a luxury, but a strategy. Yeah, let us endeavor to also build a strong support system, because at the end of the day, we need it. It's not a luxury. Yeah, let's be clear about that. So being visible is not the same as being famous. It's about recognition. It's about you influencing. Thank you very, very much, Pamela, for sharing with us your insights, for sharing with us your personal stories, for encouraging us. I am as encouraged and as inspired as I know so many of us here. There was a lot for me to learn also from your presentation, and also, reminders about some of the things that sort of usually put at the end, at the back of your mind, and but you just coming to remind us that this is very important and it's critical. And yes, we're glad to hear that you've always admired the work that we do at Award. And I'm pleased to let you know that we've, over the years, really widened the scope of, the kind of professionals we're working on, or the kind of subjects we're working on, data science being our latest, newest addition. We're probably going to be getting in touch with you around that, but yeah, so some people asking for your LinkedIn, maybe somebody can type it in the chat, but also we've been told to go on to OSID, to Google Scholar, to ResearchGate, to all that. So let's ensure that we're also going into those platforms. Without further ado, I'd like to bring this to a close. It's already 32 minutes past the hour. We were scheduled to end at 1/2 the hour. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank you all for your active participation, for engaging with us. The chat function has been very active. We've seen people from the northernmost part of Africa, from Tunisia, to the westernmost part of Africa, Senegal, southern parts of Africa. So we really had people from across the entire continent. Thank you very much for your interest in this webinar and for really actively engaging. I want to thank the award staff for their endless efforts in organizing this webinar and for ensuring that we've had such a seamless session today. Thank you very much. I saw a couple of trainers joining us. I also saw a couple of award alumni, even from earlier fellowships joining us. Thank you very much. Very many people have asked how they can get the award fellowships. Please, I will tell you to go to our website and subscribe to our newsletter so that you can get the news when we announce new calls. With that, I would like to bring this to a close. My name is Doreen Odongo. I've been honored to be your moderator. Until next time, bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.